All right, welcome back. This one we're going to be going over job scheduling. So we're going to do one-off jobs with the at package, and then we're going to use cron tabs for recurring jobs. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and get going on this. One-time jobs, we're going to use the at package, which we're going to have to download from a repository, but at is used for one-time jobs. If you're running a batch job, this will be dependent on CPU load. So just like in the last lecture, in terms of priority, that's when nice priority is going to be essentially when it's going to run. However, most of the time your CPU activity is going to be relatively low. So unless you have a overworked machine or overworked server, then maybe you might have a problem. But when the CPU load is less than 0.8, all your batch jobs will run. So typically don't run this, something that is important that you think it needs to be done in a timely manner. This is going to be things that are run in the background. Okay, so time formats with at, you have your ones that we're used to reading like this. So 4:25 a.m. we have 04:25, which is going to be my preference just because it tells me what I need to know with a little bit less typing. And then you also have access to terms. So what these terms do is using English, today, midnight, noon, things like that, or basically any other combination too. So time plus days. So at 1300 for 10 days, something like that. You can have a recurring job with this. So here are your time format examples. If you have a particular preference for one, then cool. All right, I definitely have a preference for the 24-hour format. It's just a little bit nicer. And then if I need some recurring, then I'll use a cron tab, but it's going to look something like this, right? 1600 plus date, plus 2 days, tomorrow, something along those lines, all right? One time. So visual example, we'll be going over this here shortly after we get through the presentation. We'll jump into our VM and get something going here. But sudo app install at, okay? And then one-time job. So running on boot. So if you needed something to be run on boot, say check to see if network connection is working to a particular server, something like that. You can do it like this. So you can sudo system control enable, then at, and then daemon, so at daemon, and then you have the ability to run your batch jobs right at boot. So again, if it is a batch job, it's only going to run when the CPU load is at 0.8% or lower. All right. Okay, one-time job, 1 minute. So here's a example, very simple one. So at right now plus 1 minute, and then I want to run this touch command and then put it whatever the current user is, document test.txt. Okay, and then it'll tell you when this is going to run. Good. Results. Going to run an ls, and there's our test.txt. Okay, if you need to view a queue, which you might need occasionally, especially if you're going to cancel something, that is done by at, or this is adding one, sorry, atq, right here, atq. So obviously that stands for at and then q for queue, all right? The ID is here, and then when it's supposed to be ran, and then who made it, okay? If you need to cancel a job, at rm, which stands for remove, and then you're going to need that process ID. So if you're going to, you got to use Q first to find the one that you need, and then you can remove that particular queue, right? And then this is showing that that is no longer in the queue. So at Q, nothing showed up. All right, so creating a batch job, again, if you're going to be doing batches, it's going to run at a low CPU usage, all right? So it's not based on time. So batch, and then the command that you're looking for, we used the same touch command just to make it a little bit easier. So touch, current user directory, document, and then batch txt. And then obviously it's still going to work the same as the last one. It's just dependent on CPU usage. Okay, so recurring jobs with cron, or cron tabs, are they're better known. A couple things that we need to go over for that, for conceptual things. Cron tabs are stored in the cron tab or table. Okay, there's one for user, so the current user that you have, and then one for the system. Okay, so the system is going to be controlled by your root entity and then admins as well, possibly. So admins can obviously change it, but it's owned by root. So once you get into permissions a little bit more, they'll make a little bit more sense just because of how Linux is set up. But yeah, just know that the ones for the system is going to be managed by root, and then your admins can change it as well, but it's owned by root. Okay, each user has a cron tab and can be managed by the user. So whatever user created that cron tab for themselves, they can manage their own. And then depending on permissions, you might be able to alter other users' cron tabs, but you're going to have to be given that permission, or you have sudo rights. Okay. Cron job format. So again, this is one of those things where you don't necessarily want to memorize it, just because it's going to be a list of numbers and then a command or two. Okay, so this is going to be much closer to, hey, I know of a good resource that I have. Let's go ahead and use that. So here's an example. 30 minutes. Here's your 30. On the 8th hour, on the 10th day of the 6th month. Okay, so you actually want to read this backwards to get this right. So this is the 6th month, which is June, on the 10th of June, at the 8th hour, so 0800, and then 30 minutes into that 8th hour, so 8:30, so 0830. And then we're going to run this every day of the week. So, all right, every day. Once we get to June the 6th, the 6th month, 10th, the 10th of June, at 0830, we can run this. Command the run. Zip backup home, your home directory, home backup.zip, and then we're going to put it directly in the user home directory. So this home backup.zip is going to show up in that home directory. Okay. Cron install and start on boot. Okay, so need to go over this real quick just in case you need that. Sudo apt install cron, and then Y to make sure that you're actually installing everything without having to click yes on everything. Update -rc.d cron defaults. Okay, so this gives you the ability to run your cron tabs on start or on boot. Okay, cron job. Nice and easy. Run this basically immediately on every day. Touch. We're going to do cron filey. Okay. So cron tab, executable, installing new cron tab, ls documents, and then there's cron file from when I was trying to do this and getting it to work. And then once I did, we run this ls command again, and then there is our cron filey. Okay. Cron job system, so system cron tab. Okay. You're not going to be using this much, just know that it exists. Okay. There we go. So if you needed the server to do something, say like a file backup, that's when you're going to be using system cron tabs. For us, what we're doing here, not so much. We're just trying to get you exposed to that the cron system actually works, and it's there, and it's a tool that you need, but we don't go into it too much just because it's intro to Linux. All right. So that's the end of the slideshow. If you don't have your VM up already, go ahead and pull that up. Here we go. I got mine up. We're going to open up the terminal. I'm going to go full screen here. Bang, bang, and Bang. There's that. Let's go ahead and pull my reference down. So we're going to do a app job, and then we'll do a cron job, okay? So I have not installed app on this VM yet, or at on this VM yet. So sudo apt install at, here we go, password for me. There we go. Come on, give me the confirmation. There we go. So that is now installed. So if we come down here, we're going to have to enable that service. Oh, well, for on boot, we need to enable that service. So that's actually something you probably want to have in general. It's going to save you a lot of time in the future when you're trying to figure out why this isn't working on boot. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to make sure that runs on boot. Okay, so now we're going to do that simple example that we had in the presentation. So at now plus 1 minute. And then it's going to ask for what command to execute. We're going to do touch documents test.txt. Let's do, ooh, I can't do that, can I? That is sad. So at.txt, just to keep our files organized. And I'm going to go ahead and Control D. Okay, there we go. So you can't hit enter here. So if you wanted a multi-line executable at, then you can hit enter, but that doesn't work for the at command itself. So you need Control D to save this. So we are looking at this. I created this at 10:48:22, and this is already 10:49. So depending on how accurate this is, this might have already ran. So documents stop. Stop still. Okay, so at.txt has already ran. That's, I think it's this one, yeah. Okay, so at.txt already ran. It's right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that again and make it just a little bit more smooth. We're going to do that. Okay, we're going to do touch. Document at 2.txt, Control D. Okay, there's our ls documents. And I'm going to do this a few more times until I get this, AT2. So this is showing that it does run at the time that we're expecting it to. So we can move on to cron tabs. So let's go ahead and find that option. So there's nothing to install for cron, okay? It is already going. So we're going to do, oh, come on, there we go. We're going to do the example that we had in the PowerPoint. Cron file, .txt. So this should run basically next minute as well. And because we have all these wildcards here, these stars, that is going to run at every minute of every day. So obviously we're not going to want to run this forever consistently. We will remove this eventually. But oh, my fault. Sudo app install cron y. So I was mistaken. Okay, so this is something I glossed over pretty poorly in the presentation. So I'm pretty sure I can pull up cron tab like this. Nope, that was wrong. Okay, so give me a couple seconds. Almost. Almost. It's hard to memorize everything. No, not corn tab. Cron tab. No cron tab for Briggs JA. Okay. So, now that we got that far, it was cron. Go faster. Here we go. Come on. I would like nano. Here we go. So that's what I was looking for. -E for cron tab instead of just cron tab. All right. So like I said in a few of the presentations up to this point, it is very difficult in technology to memorize everything, particularly when you're starting out. So don't feel bad if you forgot something. Go ahead and look it up and move on with life. It's going to be fine. All right. So now we can put into this cron tab 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then we want touch, documents, cron file, .txt. We're going to Control X to get out of here. It's going to ask me if I want to save this buffer. I do, so I hit Y, and then I'm going to save it as the default file. And then if we give ourselves a couple minutes here, okay. Okay, let's see if this ran yet. There it is. Okay, so that took a little bit longer than that app command, but here it is, cron file. So we have our cron file. It's running every minute, so I'm going to go back in and fix that because that's not the best idea in the world. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to go back to edit, and then I'm going to get rid of this because I quite simply don't need it. So your cron tab is going to run, because we set it to run on boot. It's going to continuously run no matter what. If you had the computer on, if you had it like that, it'd run every minute. Okay, so I'm going to Control X there. I'm going to hit Y here, and then enter here. So with that said, that is going to cover the basics for cron tabs. Now for your homework, you're going to be doing a little bit more in depth for examples, and then in class, when we start getting into the full example where we start putting all these things together for a full solution, then we'll have a much thorough understanding of what this is. But with that said, we'll be moving on to the next topic here, and I'll see you in the next video.